The scream cut through the night like a blade. It wasn't loud, it was sharp. Control. Michael turned just in time to see his father, Henry, drop the porcelain teacup that shattered like his pride. The old man staggered at the doorway, hand clutching his chest, eyes wild. Not from pain, but from knowing. In that moment, the silence of 2 decades of absence roared louder than the ambulance sirens that hadn't arrived yet. Michael didn't run to catch him. Neither did his sister. They froze. Not because they didn't care, but because they still weren't sure if he deserved their hands. As Henry hit the floor, a letter slipped from his coat, unopened, yellowed at the edges. Michael stared at it like it was a ghost. His father gasped, "Read it, tonight." Then he closed his eyes, not in peace, but in reckoning. Michael held the letter like it was burning through his skin. For years he had imagined what his father might say if they ever spoke again. Not like this. Not from a corpse on cold hardwood, and a note that arrived too late. Anna didn't speak. Her silence was accusatory. He tore the envelope carefully, as if some ancient curse might slip out. Inside were only 2 pages. The first, his father's last confession. The second, a list. A short, strange list titled, "Things I Did Before Sleeping." Michael stared at it in disbelief. No explanation. Just a ritual. 7 entries. Odd. Childlike. Haunting. Wah. Anna whispered. He always said wisdom didn't come from books. Michael read the first line aloud. I forgave myself out loud, even when I didn't believe it. The room felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Michael didn't sit. He couldn't. The list was still in his hands, trembling with the weight of memories he never had. A part of him wanted to laugh. This was so like Henry. Cryptic. Thought. Detached. Offering meaning after a lifetime of silence. Anna lit a candle. Not for prayer. For memory. For rage. He left us, she said. Then left us this. Michael didn't answer. His eyes were scanning the list again. Write down your angers before they become someone else's burden. His throat tightened. That's what Henry had done to them, hadn't he? Left his angers unspoken, and they inherited every bruise of them. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the letter on the nightstand like it might whisper secrets in the dark. The third line read, "Apologize in your mind to someone who won't forgive you." His mind went instantly to their mother. The woman who died without closure. Without answers. Without Henry. He closed his eyes and imagined saying it. I'm sorry. Not for what he did, but for not protecting her from him. And from himself. No. A tear escaped down his cheek. Not for grief, but for the tiny boy he used to be. The one who waited for his father every night. He whispered to that child, he's not coming. But I am. At 2:14 a.m., Michael sat in the living room chair where his father once read the paper. The list now lived in his lap. He didn't know why, but he followed it. One step at a time. He closed his eyes. Said the forgiveness aloud. Wrote down the angers. Apologized in silence. By the 4th line, say the name of someone you've lost and thank them. His voice cracked. Mom. The room didn't answer. But it felt different. Softer. Like it had released something old. That's when Anna entered, eyes puffy, carrying the blanket he left in the hallway. She didn't speak. She just draped it over his shoulders. And left. That moment was the first thread that might lead to healing. Or not. But it was a thread. Michael couldn't remember the last time he allowed himself to cry. Not even when Mom passed. Not even when he stood over her casket, wondering why Henry never showed. But tonight, alone in the hallway where he once waited for his father's car to pull into the driveway, the tears came unannounced. He slid down the wall, knees pulled to his chest. The boy he used to be sat beside him, 8 years old, hair messy, eyes wide with questions. Why didn't he come back? What did we do wrong? The boy didn't speak. He didn't have to. Michael finally whispered the answer. He never heard as a child. It wasn't us. It was him. He broke himself before he ever broke us. Somewhere in the quiet, that child version of him exhaled and vanished. Anna didn't cry in front of anyone. Not even their mother's funeral broke her silence. But that morning, as sunlight barely stretched across the window blinds, she sat at the kitchen table, tracing the rim of her coffee mug like it held answers. Michael watched from the doorway. She didn't acknowledge him. He didn't ask her to. "Do you hate him?" he finally asked. Her finger froze. Then slowly she said, "I don't think I ever stopped being 5 years old waiting for him to come home." Her voice didn't crack, but her hand did, trembling before she pulled it into her lap. What kind of father disappears, then sends wisdom in a list like it's a bedtime story? Michael stepped forward, unsure. The kind who ran out of words and thought silence could raise children. Anna didn't look up, but her next tears said she heard him. Michael read the list again slowly. Each line landed differently now. Last night, they were rituals. This morning, they felt like confessionals. The 5th line: "List one thing you wish you had said, and still can." He stared at it. What would he say to Henry? What could he say that wasn't already broken in his bones? "You made me afraid to become a father," he said aloud. His voice echoed faintly. Anna looked up from across the room. He added quietly, "But I became one anyway." For the first time, Anna's expression changed. Not pity. Not grief. Something else. Relief. "So did I," she said. That moment connected them not as siblings, but as survivors of the same silence. Raised by absence. Bonded by resilience. Anna found it behind the bookshelf, buried in an old envelope with no postmark. A photo. Michael and Anna, no older than 6 and 4, sitting in the front yard, Henry behind them with a faint, awkward smile. Michael stared at it for a long time. "I don't remember this day," he said. Anna shook her head. "I think he sent it to Mom after he left, like proof he existed once." The photo wasn't sharp. It was faded, nearly sepia. But Henry's eyes told a story, one of a man already slipping away, even as he held them. "He didn't know how to stay," Michael muttered. "So he captured a moment and vanished into it." Anna folded the photo gently, not to hide it, but to preserve it. "That's the only smile I'll keep," she said. Later that evening, Michael stood in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush in hand, but unmoving. His reflection wasn't still, it was haunted. Behind his own eyes he saw Henry stare. Not as an enemy, but as a warning. "I have your temper," Michael whispered. "Your silence too." The 6th line from the list flashed in his mind. "Name one trait you inherited that you must not pass down." He dropped the toothbrush. It clattered like an alarm. He pressed his forehead to the mirror. "I won't become you," he promised. But even as he said it, he knew the war wouldn't end tonight. It was the beginning of a battle fought every day, with every bedtime, with every silence, with every echo that sounded like his father's voice. Michael opened the storage room in the basement, a forgotten chamber of cardboard memories. Dust clouded the air like the past resisting exposure. Boxes were labeled in their mother's handwriting, winter coats, school projects, and one simply, "Dad." His fingers trembled as he opened it. Old receipts, faded ties, and a leather-bound journal stared back. Anna stood silently at the door. "You never told me she kept this," he said. Anna replied, "I didn't want to open that kind of anger." Michael flipped through the journal, pages filled with restless scrawl, half-thoughts, apologies never sent. One page stopped him cold. "I left before they could see the worst of me," Henry had written. Michael whispered, "Too late, we became it." The room didn't echo. It absorbed. That night, Michael sat on the porch, the journal in his lap. He had read every page, looking for answers, for love disguised as pain. But all he found were excuses. I couldn't give them what they needed, Henry wrote. So I gave them my absence. Michael laughed bitterly. He gave us absence like it was a gift. Anna sat beside him, her eyes tired. He didn't leave because of us, she said. He left because he couldn't face himself. The seventh line from the list echoed in Michael's mind. Say aloud what you wish someone had said to you. He turned to her. I wish he told us why he was broken, not after death. But when we still had time to hate him honestly. Anna nodded. But then we wouldn't have had this porch. Sometimes healing begins where the explanation ends. Inside the journal were loose sheets, letters Henry wrote, but never mailed. One to their mother, dated 10 years after he left. I still see your eyes when I try to sleep, it read. Another addressed to Michael. I saw your football game from across the fence. You look strong. Michael's chest caved inward. He was there, he whispered. Anna reached for the letter but stopped herself. That's worse than not showing up, she said. He watched but chose not to exist. Michael felt his hands shake. Not from rage, but sorrow. He didn't know how to be part of the story, so he wrote footnotes from the sidewalk. A father behind the fence. A ghost who never knocked. The kind of love that hides, then hopes. The house cracked under the weight of withheld truths. It was Anna who broke first. Why do you care now? She shouted, her voice echoing off basement walls. He left us. He left me to pick up the pieces when Mom broke down. Michael stood frozen. Because I need to know it wasn't for nothing, he said. I need to know he thought about us. She threw the journal onto the floor. He thought, but never acted. That's the coward's legacy. The silence afterward felt like a scream trapped in drywall. Michael bent down, picked up the book and said quietly, then we finished the list, not for him. For us. Anna didn't reply. But her anger didn't burn as hot. It simmered. Maybe even softened. The phone sat in a drawer for years. Their mother's old answering machine. Anna plugged it in while Michael was upstairs. Neil. Static. Dad. Then a voice, Henry's. It's me. I was nearby. I thought maybe I'd... Silence. Then a long sigh. Tell the kids I'm proud, even if they never believe it. Click. Dot. Michael entered just as it ended. Anna's eyes glistened, but she didn't replay it. We never heard this, he said. Anna nodded. Mom probably didn't want us to. They sat with that voice hanging between them. Not a reconciliation. Not a bridge. Just a message in a bottle, found too late. And yet, for the first time, Michael didn't feel abandoned. Just unfinished. The envelope had a second fold, hidden behind the list. Michael noticed it by accident, the paper slightly thicker at the edge. He peeled it apart carefully. Inside, a smaller note. Not to them. But to someone else. Eleanor, it began. If they find this, they deserve to know. Eleanor. Their mother. The note continued. I never told them the truth about you. You were the one who kept the secret, even as it broke you. I loved you for it. I hated myself for letting you. Michael's stomach dropped. Anna leaned over. Read it, she said. He did. Slowly. Carefully. They don't know she wasn't their biological mother, but they knew love. That's all that mattered. You gave them that. The world shifted beneath Michael's feet. Not from betrayal. From a love that had rewritten itself into motherhood. They entered their mother's room like strangers stepping into a chapel. Every item felt suddenly sacred. Anna opened the bottom drawer of the vanity. Inside was a photo album neither had seen before. The first page. Hospital papers with adoption signatures. The second. A photo of Eleanor, younger, radiant, holding a newborn. She chose us, Anna whispered. She built a lie to give us love. Michael touched the image, his fingers trembling. She loved him enough to raise his children after he left. Anna shook her head. She loved us more, then she hated him. That sentence made Michael crumble. The lies weren't meant to deceive. They were built as shelter. And for a while, they held. The next document was a letter from Eleanor. Not addressed to them, but to Henry. It was never sent. I didn't tell them the truth because they didn't need your shame, she wrote. They needed peace, and I gave it to them. If you ever return, remember, they don't owe you love, you owe them silence. Anna sat with her hand over her mouth, eyes wide. Michael said, she protected us by burying the truth. He looked at Anna. Do you think she ever resented it? Anna shook her head slowly. She never gave us half love. We were never borrowed, we were hers. In that moment, their mother became something even greater, more than a martyr. She was the architect of their healing, even in her silence. Memories don't change, but their meanings do. Michael remembered the way Eleanor used to sit at the edge of his bed when he couldn't sleep, humming lullabies in the dark. Back then, he thought she was simply a kind mother. Now he realized she was teaching him how to love without explanation. Anna recalled the birthday when she turned 10, and Eleanor made her a crown out of paper because they couldn't afford anything more. She never said we were adopted, Anna whispered, but she crowned us like royalty. Michael nodded. She didn't need blood to prove anything. She gave us everything that mattered. The list suddenly seemed fuller. Every item connected not to Henry's regrets, but to Eleanor's sacrifices. Michael took out the list again. This time he added a line. Beneath Henry's 7th entry, in his own handwriting, he wrote, "Say thank you to the one who chose to stay." He folded the letter, sealed it back in the envelope, and placed it on Eleanor's old pillow. Anna stood in the doorway, watching. She didn't cry. Neither did he. But something broke open, and in its place, something rooted itself. Not healing. Not yet. But truth. And sometimes truth is all you need to begin. As they turned off the light and left the room, Michael whispered, "She didn't just raise us. She saved us." The door closed with a soft click. It didn't echo. It settled. Michael stood in front of the mirror again, but this time he brought the list with him. The reflection didn't look like Henry anymore. It looked like a man halfway between breaking and becoming. He read the 6th line out loud again. Name one trait you inherited that you must not pass down. Then he added, my father's silence. He stared at himself, voice trembling. I won't teach my children to swallow their screams. Behind him, the faint sound of footsteps. His young son had woken, sleepy-eyed and confused. Dad. Michael turned, dropped to his knees, and hugged him tight. I'm right here. I'll always be here. The boy nodded and leaned in. That hug lasted longer than it needed to. Because some hugs stitch generations back together. Anna sat at the kitchen table, long after the lights were off. A single lamp flickered above her as she opened her journal. For years she had written letters she never sent. Tonight, she wrote one more. Dear Mom, she began, I thought I was angry at you for lying, but I was angry at myself for never thanking you while you were here. Her handwriting shook. You taught me how to love with scars, and that's the only kind of love that ever survives. She paused, wiped a tear with her sleeve, and smiled. A small, worn smile. She folded the page, kissed it, and tucked it under Eleanor's old scarf on the chair. Not to send, but to say goodbye. And to finally say thank you. Michael returned to the original letter. One last page he hadn't read. It was folded behind the list, hidden almost like Henry wasn't sure he deserved to have it read. To my children, it began. I spent most of my life running. From lore. From love. From the sound of your laughter. Because I didn't think I had the right to hear it. Michael's eyes flooded. If you're reading this, then I failed less than I feared. I gave you my worst and you still searched for my best. That's more than I earned. Anna stood beside him silently, reading with him. The letter ended. You are not broken pieces of me. You are proof that even from damage beauty can form. Michael whispered, "Why didn't he just say this while he was alive?" Anna answered, "Because he didn't believe he could be forgiven until he was already gone." That night, they lit a fire in the backyard pit. Not to destroy, but to release. Michael held the journal in his hands, looked at Anna. She nodded. He didn't need us to keep his pain. He needed us to live beyond it. One by one the pages caught flame, his words, his regrets, his silence. Smoke curled into the stars like a final exhale. Anna dropped in her letter too, not because it didn't matter, but because it already had. They stood together in the cold night, wrapped in the warmth of what no longer needed to be carried. Not all legacies deserve to stay unburned. Some must become ash, so new roots can grow in clean soil. Days later, Michael sat at the same desk where his father's list had lived. He opened a new page, stared at it for a long time. Then he wrote, "Things I will teach before sleeping." He smiled. 1. Say I love you, until they believe it. 2. Let your children hear you cry. 3. Don't wait for death to say thank you. Anna walked in with coffee, glanced at the page. A new list. He nodded. His ended with us. Ours begins now. She leaned over, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Make it count." Michael placed the pen down, looked out the window where his son played, laughing. This was the beginning of a new silence. One filled with sound and the weight of peace. Anna sat in the garden, phone in hand, heart racing. The number belonged to Henry's sister, an aunt they never knew. She dialed. When the voice answered, soft and unsure, Anna said, "This is Anna, Henry's daughter." Silence. Then a choked reply, "You sound just like your mother." It wasn't Eleanor's name she meant. It was the woman Henry abandoned before their lives began. "He never stopped talking about you," the aunt said. But he didn't know how to return. He thought he'd ruin what was left. Anna's hand trembled. "He already did. But we're still here, and we want to know who he was, so we can choose what not to be." That call didn't bring forgiveness. But it brought something quieter, understanding. "Dad," his son asked, "was Grandpa nice?" Michael paused, staring at the list tucked in his journal. He took a breath. He wasn't always nice. He got scared and made a lot of mistakes. The boy tilted his head. "Did he love you?" Michael smiled faintly. "Maybe not the way I needed, but I think he tried." His son leaned in closer. "Will you leave me too?" Michael pulled him in tight. "Never. And if I ever hurt you by accident, you tell me, and I'll stay until it's right." The boy nodded. Michael realized then that the list wasn't for Henry. It was for this moment, for how to answer a question no father wants to hear, and no child should have to ask. And this time he had the answer. At the edge of the property stood an old oak tree Eleanor had planted decades ago. They never knew why, until Anna found the faded marker in the soil, "For the family I chose." They stood beside it now, Michael, Anna, and Michael's son. The leaves rustled with gentle certainty. Anna whispered, "She gave everything without expecting anything back." Michael nodded. "She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She just refused to let us feel unwanted." The boy reached up, touching the bark like it might speak. "Is this Grandma's tree?" he asked. Michael smiled. "It's her love, planted where it could grow." For the first time they didn't look backward. They looked up, toward branches that never broke. That night, Michael sat down with his new list. One final entry. He wrote slowly, deliberately. 7. Tell your story before someone else writes it for you. He closed the notebook and looked out the window. The moonlight touched Eleanor's scarf, still draped over the dining chair. He whispered, "We know now, all of it, and we're still standing." His voice didn't shake. His hands didn't tremble. The silence in the house wasn't angry anymore. It felt like a lullaby. Anna entered, holding a cup of tea. She placed it beside him and said, "Mom would have liked this version of you." He smiled. So would I. That's what healing is, meeting the person you once needed, and realizing you've become them. Michael tucked his son in, same as every night. But now, there was a ritual. What's something you forgive yourself for today? He asked. The boy blinked. For yelling at Sammy. Michael nodded. Good. What are you grateful for? You, the boy said without pause. Michael kissed his forehead, heart full. He stepped out, closed the door gently, and exhaled. Upstairs, Anna was doing the same with her daughter. In 2 different rooms, 2 once wounded children were raising new ones with rituals born from pain, but transformed by choice. The list was no longer about Henry. It was no longer about loss. It had become a map, guiding a generation toward gentleness. One bedtime at a time. Spring came slowly, but with purpose. Michael and Anna stood by Eleanor's tree once more, each holding a letter. Not to Henry. Not to Eleanor. To themselves. They had written what they needed to hear years ago. As children, you didn't ruin anything. You were never a burden. Together, they folded the pages into small paper birds. Michael whispered, "Ready." Anna nodded. They released them into the breeze. The wind caught them gently, lifting them over the garden like blessings. There were no tears. No speeches. Just the sound of pages brushing against air and the ache of peace settling into place. Healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just leaves your hands and flies. Eleanor's room was empty now, emptied of things, but not of meaning. The scarf had been folded and placed in a box, the bedding freshened, the shelves cleared. Michael stood at the doorway, remembering the bedtime stories she used to tell, stories about kings and daughters, not knowing she was the true queen all along. Anna entered behind him, whispered, "What should we do with it?" He looked around. "Leave it open," he said. "Someone might need the space, just like she made space for us. Rooms hold echoes. And this one would echo with lullabies, not laments." They turned off the light, left the door ajar, and walked away not with loss, but with legacy. Michael's son sat on the porch steps, the old list now rewritten in his childlike scrawl. Say I love you, say I'm sorry, say goodnight even when you're angry. He read each one aloud with pride. Michael sat behind him smiling, arms around his knees. "You're making your own rules now," he said. The boy nodded. "Because I want to be a good dad when I grow up too." Michael didn't respond with words. He just pulled him closer. That was it. The generational chain, broken not with violence or vengeance, but with a pencil and a bedtime voice. Not all wisdom is ancient. Sometimes it's scribbled in crayon and read aloud with missing teeth. Anna walked alone at dusk, passing the places where her childhood once fractured. An old fence, the playground swing where she cried alone, the market her mother skipped to avoid questions. She paused at the window of a small bookstore, catching her reflection. She looked nothing like the child who waited. She looked like the woman who survived the wait. Her daughter's hand slid into hers. "Can I get a book?" the girl asked. Anna smiled. "As many as you want." They stepped inside together. Because the story wasn't over. Because the girl beside her didn't carry the same ghosts. And Anna made sure of that. Her love had a spine. And it didn't break. The house was quiet again. But not the kind of quiet that punishes. The kind that rests. That holds. Michael stood in the hallway one last time, list in hand, lights dim, air still. He looked down at the last line he wrote, "Tell your story before someone else writes it for you." He folded it, walked to the fireplace, and placed it, not in the fire, but on the mantel. Not to forget, but to remember it was lived. A voice echoed in his mind, his father's, his mother's, his own. Some wounds stay quiet until they raise children of their own. Michael turned off the light. This time, the silence didn't hurt. It whispered, "You did not become him. You became whole."